There are many reasons that you might want to have a ghillie suit, from getting better wildlife photos to hunting to concealing yourself when the stormtroopers raid your village. No matter what the reasons are, in this video we're going to go over how you can build your own ghillie suit on a budget. Hey everyone, this is Justin McAfee with ReadyLife channel, where we cover skills, gear, and lifestyle so that you're ready today, come what may. So in this video we're gonna meet up with my friend Kaleb, who's going to show us how he makes his own ghillie suits, sourcing his own material, which is easier than you think and definitely more affordable and more sustainable. Also as an element of what we call ReadyLife here on the ReadyLife channel. We will also be touching on the fascinating ancestral land-based tradition that the ghillie suit is based on. If you like the information in this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see more in the future, please subscribe to the channel. Where's Kaleb?
I don't know.
Where did he go? Wait, what is that? I hear something. Is it the cat? Oh my gosh. What is that magical thing there that you were hiding underneath?
That is a ghillie suit. So it is a stationary camouflage cover that breaks your character up or breaks your shape up, and helps you to move in an environment unobstructed. So static meaning you're in a single place and you're wearing it, and it'll blend in with the foliage and the landscape. Moving meaning you can take it with you, and when you are sitting, keep it on top of you.
Okay.
So what I did to make this was I found fishing net, so I could actually kind of explain it over here. I found fishing net, stuff that you can either pick up at the Army Surplus store, pick up at a craft store. Normally Michael's you can pick up like 15 feet by 4 feet for $15. And I used this as an outline to make a ghillie cape I like to take a photography with animals, and I also like to go out and just kind of, stalk and hunt a little bit. And I cut it so that it fits over my body when I'm sitting. And normally I'll design one for my head as well. So I could have my rifle, or I can have my camera, and just be in a stationary position so nothing can detect me. That makes sense. Now, a lot of people tend to buy their jute twine, or excuse me, their material or the ghillie string, online, and it can cost a lot of money. So I was trying to bisect that by making my own. So what I did was I took a burlap roll that I got from the dollar store, or from the garden store, and I cut it into swatches of 12 by 12, and I separated out each individual strand, and then I dyed them, as you can see here. This is the pre-finished product before dyeing, but I kept that tone so it could blend in with the ghillie jute string mixture. So like you can see here, when I put them together, I put them together in strands like so, and just did overhead knots, and I would use different colors to kind of blend in to kind of like the natural surroundings. So I took this and I dyed each of them different colors. So we have like a portion right here that I bleached first, and then I tried dyeing with like green food coloring, playing with cheap stuff you can get from the dollar store. Then over here I took bark from a local oak species as well as acorn caps, and I boiled them for a while, and then I added rusty screws, and the rust tends to amplify and darken the dye when you're using tannins in an oak. And then over here we have kind of a hodgepodge of different colors I was kind of playing with. So this was, let me see right here, this is a good example. Bleaching the burlap, and it didn't really turn out as bleached as I wanted it to, but it did give a lighter tone. So I have a lighter tone, I have a green tone, I have a black undertone, and I have the standard material that was just the burlap color before. So then I took that and I would section out a portion of the different colors, so I'd get 2 strands each of each one, like so. So I got right here, it's kind of hard to see, but you got black and brown, and you have some light green, and then we could take maybe even some of the bleached material, and you have a bundle of jute twine here. Excuse me, not jute, a bundle of burlap twine. And we take that and we form an overhand knot, and like, we can go back to another project I was working on for this. Here's another example. So if you see right here, this is kind of the process of how I did it. It's kind of hard to see against the carpet, but you can see that I was starting to work the edges here, and every so often tie an overhand knot. So I would take this, for instance, and I would find a section on the net here, and I would come in and I'd loop ahead, and then I just pull it through like so, and I'd pull it taut, and then that would hang, as you can see the section here, that would hang about at the center of an inch diameter in between each set of top knot jute twine ties. I guess that's what you call it. I don't really think there's a formal term for it, but essentially I would do that across the entire fishing net or cape that we're whatever making our suit.
Every
Joint?
inch?
Yeah. I wouldn't say every joint. You kind of eyeball it. So I would, for instance, tie one right here. I'd tie one right here. I'd tie one right here, and I'd kind of space it out as time goes on. And what we would do eventually too is we would weave in natural foliage too to kind of give a natural look. So the only downside to this is that this is not in its finished state. As you can see, I have this Ghillie cape here that I was making that I am about 90% of the way done. I have to take it out and I have to roll it in the dirt and roll it in the dust with the local material that I had in terms of like the foliage and the ecology, so it would actually match. Otherwise, it kind of just looks like a mat of burlap. So
what kind of foliage would you put in it?
Whatever environment I'd be operating in. So this palette was supposed to match Marpat, which we can see right over here. I obviously did not match that. So this is a little bit more of a desert camo setup, just by accident. It was my first real, exploration into this kind of work. I also wanted to make a process for myself that wasn't expensive, because ghillie suits can get expensive. It's cheaper to do it if you're doing it by hand, but it's more time consuming. It's more expensive to do it if you want to just get the materials real quick and just purchase it online, like on Amazon.com. But I wanted to do everything from scratch, so I knew how to make it. So I went to the store and found everything and separated it and built this. So even though it took me less than, I would say, like $20 or $30 to make this, it did take me, about 3 months to, in my spare time, be able to make this cape. So, and we're currently still, I'm still exploring different ways to use and whatnot. I also wanted to make it small enough so I could take it and roll it up and put it in a pack. Like, say I wanted to get a molly attachment to my backpack or whatever, I could roll this up like a bedroll and then attach it to the bottom of my pack. I could even tie it down and it would fit pretty snugly. And it's not that heavy. So I wouldn't do an entire suit though. That's why I recommend a cape, because you can actually throw it over a pack, say like I needed to bug out, or if I'm going on a hunt and I want to stock and stay real low, cape works just fine. So I did want to show you some other options too for camouflage, since we're here, that I just kind of, I'm also experimenting with. All the stuff here has been either super cheap or donated. This right here is a ghillie net. Found it in a dumpster. You could throw it on top of whatever you have, let's say like in a forested environment and whatnot, and it would blend in and break up the shape. So for instance, if I put this over my body, if I were to stand against something, it breaks up the outline of my body by merging the colors that are on this ghillie net with the surrounding foliage. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Then we also here have a standard blanket. I think my grandfather gave these to me for Christmas, but I thought it was just a neat pattern, like a hunting pattern. And it doesn't have, so when you're doing camouflage, you don't want to have shine to your material too much, because a shine or a glint in the landscape would create a visual signal for people who are hunting you. So we want to figure out patterns that both break up the shape of a person and also are subdued, that match the landscape. So this is a great way to, you can, if you had to hide your backpack real quick or you're on the run, you can also use it, and be behind a bush or something like that. And these patterns would actually break up your own outline. And it's also kind of warm. But it is definitely not, the best. But you can find it at a thrift store for a couple bucks or so. And then over here we're kind of playing with tarps now. As you can see, this has a bit of shine to it, but I'm playing with Marpat as a camo. It's a more standard camo, but the downfall to having this as camo is the sound. makes a lot of sound. So if you're trying to hide and this sound is being made, or say you create a shelter with a camouflage tarp, okay, you're gonna give away your presence and where you are and whatnot. So something like this doesn't make any sound. Something like this, even though it has a nicer camo pattern, it's a little more expensive, it does make a sound. So there's kind of give and takes for what you're going to get from a thrift store or whatnot, or where you could find them. And then lastly, you could find it's very common, but anything earth tone or subdued, like I carry my boonie hat wherever I go, and I have something to cover my neck, you know, and then my bag is also subdued color, so if we need to throw in the bush, you know, it's not a bright red or a bright blue, it's not going to stick out right away. But it very well, you know, isn't totally camoed, so it would kind of stick out to have a solid patch of green, you know, in a bush with a bunch of different colors, like so.
Why would you need to, what are some scenarios to have camouflage, whether practical or, you know, just being for readiness for something?
The reason why you'd want to get into a camouflage way of life, and also just using any camouflage gear that we talked about here. So from the layperson's perspective, you know, if you're into hunting, if you're into what we consider like nature connection, you know, going out and just going on a hike and whatnot, wanting to not be seen, wanting to blend in with the environment, any of that that activity would require you to subdue your presence. So if an animal, for instance, if you're hunting an animal and you have a very bright outline and a very bright presence when you're walking around, whether it be by sound or be by clothing or even be by your own focal attention to the animal itself, it's going to take note of you, right? So we use different tools like this to be able to lessen our presence and match with the environment so the animal wouldn't pick up our presence. In terms of nature connection too, like say we're at a park or whatever, we want to wear more earth tones, like for instance our olive here, or even like, I wouldn't say my black, but like you know, even like a gray or, you know, subdued blues or whatever, things that would match in the environment. So you want to be at a park where you don't want people to notice you, but you kind of want to just kind of gather a meditative state, you know. So when you're out in nature and you're out camping, you kind of learn how to reflect with yourself a little bit. You still also want those subdued tones with camouflage to be able to not draw attention to yourself. So, and then you know, what's very popular with a lot of people.
Or even if you're like maybe bird watching. Or...
Yeah, bird watching is a great example of that, you know, and that kind of ties into the more stalking hunting aspect of things, because you are hunting with a camera, right? So you're looking for the bird and whatnot, but you don't want the bird to, you're not killing the bird, you're not going to consume the bird, there's no relationship in that way, you know. So so you can definitely use camouflage in that aspect. There is also the concept of wearing camouflage in a tactical situation. So like, I know that a lot of people in the world are talking about climate change and possible dangers that you would have to take during they call it like a shit hits the fan or without real law situation. And that's a very real worry for a lot of people in different places in the world that are dealing with issues that would, you know, challenge their way of life, you know. And then that goes for families, that goes for, you know, single people, that goes for rich and poor, you know. Everyone has their own quality of threat that they have to deal with. So camouflage in this way would mean that they would reduce their presence so they can maintain stealth, to be able to live in a way that wouldn't be a danger to them. So like for instance, if you're driving and you see camouflaged homeless camp, there's a reason for that. They don't want to be seen by police, so therefore they're going to camouflage their camps, even though we obviously see it, you know. They're reducing their presence, so therefore they aren't obstructed from living, you know. Or another example is if you're bugging out from a situation where, for instance, I mean, let's say that, you know, one day a bunch of people come and attack your home or your town or your community or whatever, and you want to get out of there, you know. Having camouflage gear and whatnot would mean that in the effort of people trying to search for you, you're able to like either hide in the bush or reduce your presence when you're moving through the environment, whether at night or in the middle of the day, to be able to match the baseline as you're moving. And we use the term baseline a lot to say like kind of like the rhythm or the culture of a local environment. So like the rhythm or a baseline of an urban environment is people walking around, you know, doing things, going about their errands and whatnot. So that would also include something like such as their shirt colors, the way they speak, their pace of walking, their intonations and how they express themselves, even hand gestures, you know. That's all camouflage for behavior. You could wear like an Adidas shirt and, you denim pants, and that would be considered camouflage in an urban environment if you were to match everybody else that was there. In a forested environment or in a natural environment, that would mean, not only changing our clothing, such as our palette and whatnot, but also changing the way we walk and stalk and move through the forest or desert without giving cue to all the animals that are there, thus reducing our own presence. So a great example is this: if we're going out and we're going hiking, and you're very loud, animals are going to run away from you, right? So if someone's trying to find you and they see animals running away from you, where are they going to look? They're going to look where the animals are running away from. If they actually knew what they were doing, if they were skilled hunters, or skilled trackers. So in that instance, there are certain practices that you'd have alongside your camo in your pack and whatnot to be able to reduce your presence as well, such as like stalking and reducing your baseline by like relaxing your eyes, or even the way you move and how you move your feet and whatnot. So that's a whole other topic. So just like everything in the scouting tradition, the tools and implements that we use, as well as the mindsets and whatnot, come from land-based traditions, and they're part of warrior cultures. So the ghillie suit is a nice complement and lesson in that. So during World War I, there was a Scottish lord, or an English lord, I'm not quite sure. His name was Lord Lovat, and he was a lord in Scotland, and there were First Nations clans in Scotland known as they were known as game wardens. They were Highlanders. I mean, I don't know the official name for them, but they were known throughout the war as the Lovat Scouts. So essentially, Lord Lovat hired these game wardens, or these Highlander clan scouts and hunters, to operate as reconnaissance units during World War I in the battlefield. The scouts would use their version of what they call a ghillie suit, right? Ghillie, I think the term ghillie refers to a horse. I'm not quite sure. We'd have to look that up. But they would create these suits that would help them to reduce the presence in the landscape in Scotland. So game wardens, meaning you will watch the forest, and so they were forest watchers and hunters. So these same suits were used as reconnaissance units, or as tools for the Lovat Scouts, the Scout reconnaissance units during World War I. Again, ghillie suits are very popular, obviously, in militaries and the civilian world the world over. But again, it comes from First Nation Scottish Highlander warrior clans. So it's a nice little foray into what ghillie suits are.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we hope that you were able to learn something about ready culture by learning how to lower your presence in any given environment, using some of the skills that we talked about today. And as always, if you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of this in the future. Thanks for stopping by.